Here I am in front of my favorite piece of furniture again. I think it's day 22. Um, Today I want to talk about rejection and two kinds of rejection. One when you are being rejected by someone, and the other when you reject someone, and which one is harder. So I don't know about you, but for me, it's always been much harder to reject someone. And although I can't say like decades ago when I was young, I enjoyed rejection. Uh, it's, particularly if it's kind of made to humiliate or to feel like, kids can be quite cruel. And I have some, memories of that kind of rejection, but it was, yeah, just kids, literally. Like, I don't know how old we were, preteens, basically. And it wasn't pleasant or anything, but I can't remember them being like the only trauma there for me. And it's nothing too bad. I mean, it's just like I say, kids being cruel, verbally, nothing more. But yeah, it was that sense of, because it was always men, boys rather. Yeah, I'm thinking was the girls. Maybe there was a bunch of girls at one point, but not as yeah. I'm not. Yeah. I'm pretty sure about boys, but not so about girls. So I'll talk about boys, and the reason I suppose my fear or trauma, as I called it, um, is that it's partly because they were boys and therefore they were quite aggressive and violent, not towards me, like I say directly, but certainly, posturing of that kind, like, and they're gonna do this to me and that, and or just like being abusive with language. I mean, nothing, yeah. So my kind of fear is that I will literally be hurt physically. And but beyond that, I don't really carry that, don't have a sense of terror, like a wound, like a hurt, like a deep hurt. Not at all. Now, and I think this is my karmic story of sorts, I believe, because um, quite the opposite to rejection. I had to fight off attraction, like attraction as in love. Yeah, alleged love. I mean, I think I spoke about that kind of love in a couple of videos, that it's not really love, it's love because, there's something about me or someone, when someone tells you they love you, it's something about you that essentially makes them feel great about themselves. That's that's it. That's all there is to it. So it's not really about you, right? Even if they say they love you, unless you both or they are very evolved, and then, but then it's like they just love. They don't need a person to love. So anyway, that little side point aside, I was um yeah, I somehow was, the popular girl, the this or the other and whatever. So, and yet I kind of really didn't really want to have half of these. I didn't want half of the attention that I was getting, is the bottom line. Especially as half of that, at least, half of the ones of the attention I was getting, half of that was pretty sleazy and slimy and ugh. And yeah, so being rejected was kind of like welcome, in a sense, like when someone kind of didn't like me, unless I particularly was keen on them, and that would always be just a boy, really. Then yes, it would kind of intrigue me more, and I would get not hurt, but kind of get like, okay, I like them even more. I'm not hurt, but I like them even more. God, it was a long time ago. um but but yeah, otherwise it's like, yeah, okay, good, almost right. While, or rather, web me to reject someone, oh my god, that's been my maverick journey. As in, so two things there. One, when I reject someone, the judgment that comes at so two things. One is judgment that comes on the back of someone being rejected by me, or me expressing a view that it rejects someone else's view. But more like it rejecting the person, as in just not wanting to, just, divorcing myself from them, removing myself from them, or expressing at least a desire, acting as if I want to, which I would or do. So that would kind of the backlash of that to that would be, you know, anger and that kind of threat, or judgment, or there's always a sense of threat. So that kind of echoes that those times when I was rejected as a kid, like just being, you know, outcasted because I behaved or spoke in ways that was not acceptable to the group. But so that's first out of, you know, two of those, when my struggle with rejecting someone else is receiving that judgment that always feels so profoundly unfair, because there's nothing, well, there's nothing to it. I mean, it's just I don't have to want to be with someone or do, you know, be friends with anyone, or, you know, so that feels so rottenly unfair. And then the second one, which is the hardest, is when I do love someone and I care for them and I want to have a relationship with them, but I'm rejecting the way we are currently having the relationship, or the way we are. I'm rejecting that because it doesn't work for me anymore. And yet, in, you know, my most recent case, I'm unable to really speak about it as clearly and articulately just as yet. I think it's partly because it's too raw, maybe, but also partly there's a sense of there's no hope and there's no point. Still haven't got to the bottom of that, as in, is there more to this or not? So anyway, but it's that feeling. So you love someone, you care for them, and knowing how that rejection can hurt and like sting, and to know that your way of being, i.e. your rejection, hurt someone you care about. Whew. That's still a tough call. That's the toughest thing. And yet the whole point of She Maverick and this chapter in my life, for many years to come, is to trust that on a soul level, the other soul, those other souls that I care for and love deeply, or care about, I don't have to necessarily love them all deeply, but get that this is not malicious. This is just me having to do my thing, and it's just not aligned with them anymore. And there's, like I said, there's just one relationship where I'm not able to be clear about it, but I think I might be in some near future, near enough, soon enough. But the others, there are quite a few in the last couple of years where I actually was able to have those conversations, or rather express this clearly, and no, didn't do anything. It just closed the whole thing. But that's fine. And I was always sad, and I would imagine they got hurt a bit. They didn't necessarily say so, but I would imagine that was always like awful to know, or to think that it may have been. But still, it's never a reason not to do something that is so essential to your own truth, to you being authentic to yourself, especially if you know that this is nothing, that there's no malice in what you're doing. It's so important to remember that if you know in your heart that your rejection, and, you know, maybe not air quotes, maybe it's a real rejection, or rather it is, I suppose. So if you know that there is no malice behind, you're not doing it to play games, you're not enjoying to hurt someone, you just have to do it because that's it. That's kind of where you're at in your life, and you know, you don't even have to try to find the common ground with them. You don't owe them that. You don't owe that to anyone, you know. You can just choose to walk and say so or not. All of it is okay. But it's not easy, and like I say, the thing that hurts me the most, that stays with me the longest, is to know or suspect that they may be hurting. But they're hurting because they're having to learn that their end of that lesson. And I was hurting, and I'm hurting for that, and I was hurting for staying in the relationship against my better judgment, or against what's better for me. So I'll be hurting there, and I certainly have in many instances overstayed my, not welcome, but overstayed my time in a relationship because, you know, it was painful to reject the person, but it was also painful for me to stay in the relationship. and yet I did. And my point is, even this piece, the last 2 minutes or minute at least, this kind of who's hurting more, that is such a rotten old unhealthy way of thinking, and it's kind of comparison, evaluation, like, is who's worth more, who's worth more and therefore should suffer less or should be in less pain. Oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that. That's just, that's at the root of all suffering, really. And yeah, I don't endorse it. But it's only about now that I'm able to walk that path far more clearly, loudly, strongly, and confidently, and fearlessly. And fearlessly. P-E-E-R. Peer. That is, isn't it? Like people, other people. Yeah. Anyway, so on that note, I bid you a good day, and I will see you on day 23.